Oh, shit. There she goes. There she goes. She's in the vehicle. They got her. She's arrested. Well, I mean, she has.
Breaking news out of San Bernardino County. What began as a desperate search for a missing 7-month-old has now taken a devastating turn. Detectives have announced that Baby Emmanuel Haro is no longer believed to be alive. The case that once rallied neighbors, friends, and even strangers into search parties has shifted into a homicide investigation. Authorities say the evidence pointing to this conclusion is absolutely chilling. Evidence found not miles away, not in some dark alley or hidden location, but inside the very home where Emmanuel was supposed to be safe. For weeks, investigators followed every possible lead in hopes of finding Emmanuel alive. But now, they say the heartbreaking reality is this: Emmanuel Haro was never kidnapped. He was killed, and the ones accused of carrying out this horrific act are his own parents. According to investigators, the search of the Haro family home revealed something no one wanted to believe. During forensic sweeps, detectives discovered blood inside the residence. Tests later confirmed what everyone feared most: those blood traces belonged to baby Emmanuel. For detectives, this was the moment the case shifted. Up until then, there had still been fragments of hope that maybe Emmanuel had been taken, that maybe he was still out there, alive, waiting to be found. But the blood evidence crushed that possibility. It was no longer the story of a kidnapping. It was a story of something darker, something that had happened inside the very walls of the Haro home. And the findings didn't end there. Investigators noted inconsistencies in the way the parents described the night Emmanuel disappeared. Timelines didn't match. Details kept changing. First it was a late-night feeding, then it was a nap. First Emmanuel was in one room, then another. Detectives say the parents' statements weren't just off, they were unraveling. Neighbors told reporters that detectives returned to the home several times, carrying out evidence bags, and at one point, even removing the couple's 2-year-old child for protection. That moment sent shockwaves through the community. If authorities were willing to take another child out of the home, it meant they believed danger was still present, and that suspicion was focused squarely on the parents. Behind the scenes, investigators were piecing together a chilling picture: blood inside the house, contradictions in the parents' stories, and no signs whatsoever of forced entry or an intruder. Each clue led them further from the idea of a kidnapping and closer to a devastating conclusion. Emmanuel never left that home alive. Authorities have now confirmed that Emmanuel's parents, Jake Haro, 32, and Rebecca Haro, 41, are officially under arrest. The charges are nothing short of shocking: murder of their own 7-month-old son. Detectives say the arrest followed days of painstaking investigation. Every statement the couple made was scrutinized, compared against forensic evidence, and weighed against surveillance footage. And over the course of questioning, something chilling happened. Their stories began to shift. Details changed, timelines contradicted themselves, and inconsistencies piled up. At one point, detectives say, the Haros made confessions, partial, fragmented, but unmistakably pointing to their involvement in Emmanuel's death. Investigators describe it as a turning point in a case that had already shaken the community to its core. The arrest marked a moment when the case moved from theory to certainty. What had begun as a desperate search for a missing baby was now officially a homicide investigation, focused not on strangers, but on the very people entrusted to care for him. Neighbors described the scene with a mixture of disbelief and horror. The parents who had once appeared on television screens, pleading for Emmanuel's safe return, were now escorted out of their home in handcuffs, a stark, gut-wrenching reality for a community that had prayed and searched for a miracle. And yet, the most haunting truth remains: Emmanuel has still not been found. While detectives piece together the full story of that night, one question continues to echo in Yucaipa and beyond. Where is baby Emmanuel Haro? At the start, the story seemed, in a way, tragically simple. Emmanuel Haro, just 7 months old, was missing. His parents reported him gone, and the community rallied immediately. Volunteers fanned out across Yucaipa, scanning parks, parking lots, and nearby streets. Flyers with his smiling face were plastered on telephone poles, storefronts, and social media pages. Candlelight vigils lit up neighborhoods, and churches held prayer circles, all hoping for one thing: the safe return of a baby who could barely crawl, barely babble, barely even exist in a world full of danger. But as the investigation progressed, something didn't add up. Detectives began to notice cracks in the Haro story. Rebecca Haro's account of the day she supposedly lost consciousness in a parking lot didn't line up with security footage. Small details shifted when questioned repeatedly. Timelines contradicted themselves. And Jake Haro's recollections, once firm, suddenly wavered under scrutiny. Then came the evidence inside the home, a discovery so chilling it immediately changed the course of the case. Blood, confirmed through forensic testing to belong to Emmanuel, was found inside the residence, the very place where he should have been safest. The discovery obliterated the possibility that Emmanuel had simply wandered off or been taken by a stranger. Every volunteer searching the streets, every prayer whispered at a vigil, all of it now seemed to be chasing a hope that no longer existed. For detectives, the implication was clear. The case was no longer about a kidnapping. There was no intruder to track, no random abduction to investigate. The focus had shifted entirely inward, toward the very people who were supposed to protect Emmanuel. The home that should have been a sanctuary had become a crime scene. This is now officially a homicide investigation. The shift sent shockwaves through the community. Neighbors who had once hoped for Emmanuel's safe return now face a horrifying reality. The parent who had appeared on television screens, pleading for help, were at the center of the investigation. The people entrusted with nurturing him, keeping him alive, and caring for his every need were now suspects in the investigation of his death. And yet, despite arrests and confessions, one painful truth remains. Emmanuel has still not been found. Authorities continue to search, hoping to uncover his remains and piece together the final moments of his life. For Yucaipa and beyond, the case has become more than a news story. It is a gut-wrenching narrative of trust betrayed, of innocence lost, and of a community forced to confront a horror that hits closer to home than anyone could have imagined. The search for answers is far from over, and the question that haunts everyone remains the same. What really happened to Baby Emmanuel Haro? San Bernardino County Sheriff detectives revealed a grim truth after hours of relentless interrogation. Every question, every pause, every moment of silence in the interview room brought the case into sharper focus. It became painfully clear Emmanuel Haro was not taken by a stranger. There was no abductor lurking in the shadows, no random criminal who had snatched a 7-month-old from a parking lot. The answers detectives had been seeking all along were much closer to home, heartbreakingly so. Evidence, testimony, and forensic findings all converged on a single, devastating conclusion. Emmanuel never left that home alive. For law enforcement, the shift from a missing child investigation to a homicide case marked a turning point. The urgency of the search remained, but the focus changed completely. The people who should have been Emmanuel's protectors were now the subject of suspicion, and the house that should have been his safe haven had become the center of a tragic crime scene. For the community, the revelation was almost too much to bear. Volunteers who had scoured streets and parks, neighbors who had stayed up at night holding vigils, were forced to confront the horrifying reality. The child they had hoped to see return safely was gone forever, and the betrayal came from within the very family entrusted to love him. Neighbors who had once gathered for candlelight vigils, holding Emmanuel's smiling photo and whispering prayers into the night, are now left reeling in disbelief. What began as a desperate, hopeful search for a missing infant has transformed into a heartbreaking story of betrayal, a betrayal that unfolded within the very home meant to be Emmanuel's sanctuary. Community members describe a mixture of sorrow and anger. Streets that were once lined with volunteers searching for clues are now filled with whispers of disbelief. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers who had held on to hope now struggle to reconcile the image of loving parents with the devastating allegations brought forward by law enforcement. The reality is gut-wrenching. A 7-month-old who relied entirely on his parents for care, safety, and love may have been harmed by the very people entrusted with his life. For many in Yucaipa, the shock is compounded by the knowledge that the child's home, once seen as a safe haven, may have been the site of his final moments. And while investigators continue to piece together the full story, one haunting question continues to echo through the community. What truly happened inside the Haro family home that day? Baby Emmanuel Haro never had the chance to see his first birthday. He never got to take his first steps across a living room floor. He never said his first words, never giggled at a silly face, never reached for the hand that was supposed to guide him through life. And now, as both parents sit in custody, charged with the unthinkable, the haunting question remains. What really happened inside that home the night Emmanuel died? For investigators, for the community, and for everyone who prayed for his safe return, the answer has become the most agonizing unknown. Every timeline, every confession, every piece of evidence points toward a tragic betrayal. But the full truth, the exact moments that led to the death of a 7-month-old boy, is still hidden behind the walls of a home that should have been a place of safety and love. Until that truth comes to light, Emmanuel's story remains a chilling reminder. Sometimes, the greatest danger can come from the people we trust the most.